Welcome to Sheepdog Nation Podcast, the only place on the internet where law enforcement and their families can come to be understood, supported, and stood up for. Here's your host, the always entertaining, down-to-earth, yet in-your-face truth speaker and Leo herself, Autumn Schmidt.
What is up, Sheepdog Nation? Welcome to another podcast of Sheepdog Nation with your host, me, Autumn Schmidt. I'm really excited to have you here today. We have a kick-ass interview. We are interviewing one of my favorite Instagram cops. She's a cops cop like myself. I love it. I know that if you are in the jujitsu realm and you are a cop, then you've definitely heard of her. You've seen her online. We are going to be chatting with Ashley Smashley. Wait, that's her Instagram. That's how we know her. She's a badass. I think Ashley, I saw you weigh in at like what, 103?
105, yeah.
Okay, so she's a peanut, but I'll tell you right now, I wouldn't fuck with her. And so I'm wicked excited to have her here. And we're going to probably drill into your head why you need to be training jujitsu, why you need to, get your shit together and know how to defend yourself, especially when you're out on the streets. Welcome, Ashley. We're really excited to have you.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Because there's probably people here who may not have heard of you before.
So, my name's Ashley. I was a police officer in St. Louis, Missouri for 8 years. And then this past August, I moved to San Diego, California, where I am now a police officer as well. I am a professional mixed martial arts fighter. I've been fighting MMA and doing jiu-jitsu for about 12 years, so longer than I've been a cop.
That's fucking awesome. I love that. Ashley, tell us, we're going to talk all about, don't worry, Sheepdog Nation. I'm going to ask her all the questions that you're thinking of off the top of your head. But Ashley, tell us a little bit about your transition. So you were a cop in, you said St. Louis. So tell us a little bit about that. And then will you tell us about the transition and tell us what you're dealing with?
Yeah. So, St. Louis, Missouri, I patrolled a part of St. Louis that was called North County. So if you're familiar with St. Louis, it's definitely busy. It's pretty much like the ghetto of St. Louis. A lot of violent crime, unfortunately. A lot of gang violence. So I was busy on patrol, and then my last 4 years in St. Louis, I was actually in the drug unit. So again, dealing with a lot of gang violence because where drugs are is where the gangs are. And and then I decided to move to California because that's where my family is. So I got my California post and was able to lateral over to San Diego, where I am now a police officer. And I was coming into San Diego, I was like, oh, I've been a cop for 8 years, I'm sure I'll stuff to learn, but I'm sure it's pretty much be the same. And I was completely wrong. Everything's just so different, laws and codes and tactics, everything's different. So I've almost had to relearn everything. I'm still every day on patrol in San Diego, learning something new where I'm that's, we wouldn't do that in Missouri, but okay, I guess that's what we do out here,
Yeah, absolutely. And now, what about the weather? Is it warmer out there?
Oh man, it's beautiful. It's in the 70s here, and all my friends in St. Louis are posting pictures of the snow, and it's 17 degrees, and I'm like, yeah, I definitely don't miss that.
Yeah, fucking patrol in those kind of weathers, that sucks, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah, it is. I know. I patrol up in Maine, and let me tell you something. I think today we're at 7 degrees, and that.
Oh man.
Yeah, that's like when you post I saw a police department post today hey, criminals, take today off. It's too cold for us to come out. We're not coming out. So
Yeah,
take the day off. But it's pretty funny. So San Diego is warm. So what made you want to go out there?
my family lives in California, so my parents and my sister, so I wanted to be close to them.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. Good for you. So when did you tell us a little bit about I want to hear about your fighting career. How did you get into it? When did you get into it? Tell me all about that.
I grew up playing soccer and doing taekwondo from 5 to I don't know, probably like 18, 19. And I always wanted to fight even when I was younger, but my parents didn't want me to do like kickboxing or wrestling. So they were afraid I was going to get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So I just stuck with soccer and taekwondo. And finally, my freshman year of college, I was like, well, they can't stop me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, I think it was actually my sophomore year of college. Well, my freshman year of college, I started training MMA and jujitsu, and I just fell in love with it. So then my sophomore year of college, I dropped my soccer scholarship and I stopped doing taekwondo. And I was just a full-time student that trained jujitsu and MMA every day.
No shit.
Yeah.
How'd everyone take that?
My parents at first, they were just worried. They didn't want me to get hurt. And, but they were still supportive because they saw it made me happy. And they definitely, I had my first MMA fight like 2 years into my training.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like freaking out. Like, of course, I'm sure like most parents would, like your daughter's about to get punched in the face. Like, I'm sure I put them through a lot of stress. So they were freaking out, but now they're like my biggest fans. Like they absolutely love it. They go to all my fights and they're always cheering for me.
I love that. That's awesome. Okay. So you really got into jujitsu when you were in college. Now, did you go to college to become a cop, or how did you become a cop?
Yeah. So I got my bachelor's degree in St. Louis, Missouri. And I knew I wanted to be a police officer ever since like I was younger, probably like 10 or 11. So I got my degree in criminal justice, and like a month after graduating, I went into the police academy.
No shit. So tell me about how I know the answer to this, but I still want to hear it anyways. Tell me about how like you training jujitsu, how that being, you're being a female and, you're a little female, don't take it the wrong way, but you know what I mean? And, how did that help you?
Oh man, it's helped me immensely. Not only on the street has it helped me, but it's helped me within the police departments I've worked for, kind of just to get more respect. Unfortunately, I do think as women in this profession, we have more to prove. That's just the way it is. It's more of a man's job.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can go out there and prove like you can take care of yourself no matter what your size is, it just looks better in, your supervisor's eyes and your coworkers' eyes. But, on the street, I have had to use my knowledge to help in certain situations throughout my career. And, I know that like if I didn't have knowledge in jiu-jitsu or MMA, like, I don't know what would have happened in certain situations if I would have been able to make it out, injury free or whatever the case was. So, it's a shame that departments don't require, like quarterly or yearly training, because, every department you have to shoot your firearm, every quarter or whatever it is. Every department's different, but we don't have required, defensive tactics. So hopefully that will change in the future.
Absolutely. I think that's so right. And like Sheepdog Nation, a couple of things like I just want to go over with you really quickly. So if you haven't yet, you need to go, even while you're listening, go look up Ashley on Instagram. It's Ashley Smashley MMA. Right, Ash?
It's at Ashley Smashley. I think so.
Okay. So just go look up Ashley Smashley and look at her profile. And so here's a couple of things I want to point out. And one reason why I really, really respect you, even, because you didn't know me prior to this, but even from afar, being, a fellow female cop, like what I really enjoy about you, Ashley, is that I look at you and you know what, you're like you just said, like, yeah, you weigh in at 105 pounds. So you're not a big girl, but you know what, you got your shit together, and you're to me, you look like you're a cop's cop. Like you're definitely just true to who you are. You're all about just, you're wicked down to earth, but you know what you're good at, who you are. And that is the kind of stuff that, earns you respect on the road, especially from the men, and,
yeah.
And I think that, it's, you're a kick-ass role model for a lot of these females wanting to come into law enforcement, because unfortunately what we see is sometimes they get on Instagram or any kind of social media, Facebook, whatever, and like they see what they think is a female officer, and it's really not. I mean, you can look good and you can look the part, but it's really, can you act the part? Can you actually be the part when shit hits the fan? Like, are you throwing down? Are you going to be a part of the problem, or are you going to be able to solve the problem? And clearly, you obviously help solve the problem, because look at your training and like, look at what you're doing. So, Sheepdog Nation, like, learn from that, especially the women. And it's not even just the women, men too. How many times have I talked about, and maybe you've seen this too, Ashley, I'm sure you have, like, men can, if they don't have their shit together, they can get in the way too, and they can be part of the problem if they don't know how to defend themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when shots are getting fired, or some bad stuff is going down, it could be the biggest, buffest dude in the room, runs the other way. You don't know. It's not about the size of the person, it's their mentality. And but unfortunately with this job, your physical appearance is judged. So, for me, people look at me and they're like, this chick's tiny. Like, she's, what is she going to do to help us if something goes down? So my MMA career, my jiu-jitsu career has helped me, throughout the years of gaining respect, to be like, oh, well, even though she's tiny, like, she's willing to get down and do whatever it takes to win the fight. Unfortunately, that's just the way our profession is. You have to prove yourself. And for women, it's just so important to jiu-jitsu, especially, I mean, it's important for everyone. Men need to do it too, but I am tiny. So if a guy tries to fight me on the street and he's 180 pounds, like, I need to know what to do to protect myself.
Absolutely.
I'm half his size.
And it's such a good point. And I just know there's going to be so many women that listen to this podcast and they're going to be like, damn, she's right. Shit. Now I need to go work out. I need to go train, but it's true. Cause it just saves your ass. And like, would you say, Ashley, like, it helped you like with your mindset too? Cause like, obviously, we all, like, I'm just going to be real. Like, you're a cop, I'm a cop, like, whatever. There's a bunch of cops listening. Like, we all get scared. Like, there's times in our career where we all are like, fuck, this is going to suck. Right. But like, when you have this training, when you have this knowledge, this mindset, like, would you say that helped you at all?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, especially when you're in the gym and you're doing jiu-jitsu, you're going to roll with men too. You don't only roll with women. So that gives you confidence of like, oh, if a man's on top of me, like, this technique will work for this size guy, or, because you learn some techniques, it will work for someone my size, but someone's bigger than me, it won't work. So you learn like what works for bigger people and what situations. And also for me, like, I've noticed, I've been a cop now for almost 9 years. And I've noticed when I get in use of force situations at work, I feel like everything is slowing down, where like, it's almost like when it's happening, I'm able to see the full picture, and it's almost like in slow motion. When I know several years ago when I was still new, like, I got really bad tunnel vision and I just didn't see the full picture, and everything happened so fast. So I wasn't making as good of decisions in the moment. And I credit a lot of that to my jiu-jitsu and my MMA training, how I'm able to stay relaxed, and everything is just kind of slow motion. So I know exactly what to do to keep myself safe, keep my coworkers safe, and handle the situation correctly.
That's gold. Like, that's gold. Like, being able to slow your mind down and shit like that. And exactly like what you said, it's like, because you've been there, you've done it before. You've been on bottom with a fucking 180 pound, 200 pound guy, like, trying to beat the shit out of you. Obviously, you're not going to die because you're rolling, you're training, but like, it's like, shit, like, okay, I've been here. I know what works, like you said. So
yeah,
that's excellent. That's really good. So Ashley, could you tell us about like one of the most stressful situations you've ever been to pertaining to the job?
Probably overall, and this isn't like a one-time occurrence. When I patrolled St. Louis, where I patrolled bordered Ferguson. So I was there for the Ferguson riots. If people don't remember, that was like the very controversial shooting with Darren Wilson and Michael Brown. And there were really bad riots in St. Louis for several months, and they were burning the city down and looting. And I was on the front lines of that every single night. I was one of the first officers to arrive on scene of that shooting.
No shit.
Yeah, because where I patrolled, at the time I was patrolling Delwood, and Delwood borders Ferguson. So I was like 2 traffic lights away when that call came out.
Wow.
Just every night, we were getting shot at, getting bottles thrown at us. It was just very, very scary and stressful time. It was very sad. It was very sad to see the community like that. And, it was tough times for sure.
So like, that sounds like, yep. I mean, it's definitely, now it's kind of cool to be able to talk to you and get your take on it. Like, what did you do? Like, what would you guys do when like all this stuff was happening?
It was frustrating because, the higher ups pretty much, I felt like our hands were tied behind our back.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it was, they didn't want to, the whole world was watching us.
Mm-hmm.
Like that kind of kicked off like a lot of like the riots that happened in the future and like Baltimore and all the other stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
we kind of just every night we just lined up in a line, and we were told to just stand down, no matter what was happening, and it was scary. And, there were times like we were getting shot at, and there's like thousands and thousands of people and only like a couple hundred officers, and it's dark out. So you don't know where the shots are coming from, who they're aiming at. So the
Mm-hmm.
only thing you could do is just lie on the ground and just hope a bullet doesn't hit you.
Damn.
I know 2 officers did get shot one of the nights when they were shooting, as we were all lined up, shoulder to shoulder. You hear the shots popping off, and 2 officers got hit one night, but luckily they survived their injuries.
Wow. That's crazy. Stuff, you don't really hear on the news, stuff like that,
No, the media was pretty bad during those times where they didn't want to cover the truth of what was happening out there every night.
That's crazy. Well, I'm glad you're all right.
Thank you.
So can you tell us, okay, so obviously that's like probably, that was an extremely stressful situation all the way around the block. Like, what do you do? Like, what do you typically do to manage your stress as a cop?
I mean, for me, the gym, training jujitsu and MMA, that's my stress relief. That's always been my stress relief because, like I said, I've been training for like 12 years. I've been a cop for almost 9. So I've been doing it longer than police work. So, when I get done at work, I go straight to the gym and, I train. I train 6 days a week. My days off, I train twice a day. That's kind of like, it's my home away from home.
Mm-hmm. And Ashley, do you do any like workouts? Like, what do you do to work out, if you don't mind me asking? Or do you just train?
No, I run and I lift weights as well. But like, that's for like, I do that for MMA. And that's just me personally because, I'm a pro fighter. So I have to, I like to stay strong and keep my cardio up
Mm-hmm.
for training. But I mean, that's also for police work. You want to have good cardio.
Mm-hmm.
But, I know a lot of officers lift weights and they run, for work and for themselves when, I kind of do it for a lot of different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of officers are like super into like lifting and like CrossFit, which I think is great. Anything you can do and stay in shape, like, that's awesome. You have to be in shape for this profession, but it's definitely not enough. You have to train some type of martial arts.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now, can you tell us how has it been being a cop, being like a pro fighter?
Both are stressful
Mm-hmm.
jobs, and they're stressful in different ways, but they both complement each other. My MMA career helps me with law enforcement, to, obviously for defensive tactics and cardio and just make me safer on the street. And then, police work helps me with MMA just because, it is stressful to get in the cage and, this person's trying to hurt you, and, you have like several thousand people watching. But at the end of the day, I'm like, there's a ref in there. Like, this isn't like a life or death situation like, you encounter at work. It's just a fight at the end of the day. So it's kind of like, I feel like police work helps me mentally for like my MMA career. I mean, vice versa. They both help me mentally in different ways. So, I love both my professions, and I can't imagine my life, without either of them. I love doing both of them.
Yep, that's a really good point. And now, has anybody ever given you a bunch of shit? Because like, so Sheepdog Nation, if like you don't know, like, Ashley, she will, like when she wins or like when she fights and stuff, like she definitely rocks the thin blue line flag, which is awesome. And like all of her gears, like typically always blue, or she's got blue line beast or just something that just represents the fact that she's a cop, which is fucking awesome. So have you ever found yourself like up against any shit for that? Or
Yeah, I'll get people on social media that will like message me, saying some pretty nasty things just because I'm a cop. I never respond. It's just not worth it,
No.
just ignore it. And, I know I'm very proud of what I do. And, I always say like I use MMA to honor all my brothers and sisters in blue and all those that gave the ultimate sacrifice. And that's honestly my biggest motivation to get in the cage, is just because I'm in there to honor, all those that have died for our safety. So, I do it for them. So I always like to represent and let everyone know like why I'm doing the sport.
That's awesome, Ashley. It's humbling. It's awesome. So before we wrap this up, do you have any advice to rookie cops? Anything that you'd like to say to them?
Yeah, it's a stressful job. You need a stress relief, make sure it's a healthy one, whether it's reading or running. But I mean, obviously I'm going to preach, you have to do martial arts. You have to keep yourself safe, keep your coworkers safe and the citizens safe. And what they teach in the academy just isn't enough. You got to keep training throughout your career, because, you're going to forget what you learned at the academy and you're going to get rusty. And it's not, you have to have muscle memory. And unfortunately, most police departments, they require you to shoot several times a year, but they won't go over defensive tactics at all. So it's on you. And, even though we have crazy schedules and we have families, you have to make time for it, whether it's, even if it's once a week, it's better than nothing. Join a jiu-jitsu gym. If you don't like jiu-jitsu for whatever reason, look in the Krav Maga, look in the boxing, do something.
And I think, I think it's excellent advice. And I just think that's so important. Just do something, because not everybody's going to love like jiu-jitsu. Although I have to be just so fucking real with you guys. Like, if you don't love jiu-jitsu and like you're going to be a cop, like you better at least like it, because I don't know what your academy is like, Ashley, but I'm going to tell you about mine. And we trained and I fought, and I rolled with guys, and because of my background, I didn't give a shit. I was used to it. I'm like, yeah, whatever. But I saw some girls. I mean, girls were breaking down. We had guys who didn't know what the hell was going on. They couldn't fight their way out of a paper bag, and it's like, what the hell, so that's my opinion. If you don't like jiu-jitsu, I don't know what you're doing becoming a cop, because you're going to be rolling on the ground, except it's life or death.
I like to YouTube like officers like use of force situations, because I always like to like analyze and be like, okay, like what could have done better? What could that officer, I don't want to like judge, but it's like, if that was me, like what could have maybe I have done differently or whatever. And like 9 out of 10 times you end up on the ground. Like you always end up on the ground. So you need to know how to fight on the ground.
Yep, absolutely. That, and that's what my instructor said. He's like 90% of all fights end up on the ground. So, you better get real comfortable down there, especially being a cop, because what's everyone do? No, I'm not going to jail. So I'm going to lay down on the ground and I'm going to lay on top of my arms. Like that's, you know what I mean? That's typically what I have found. And so, and that's a stressful situation for somebody who doesn't know, any arm bars, any, pressure points, any maneuvering like that is stressful for somebody, and then like what happens when maybe you've seen this, Ashley, like, I don't know if you have, but like, I know I have, like, you're on the road, whatever, you're dealing with an uncooperative person who obviously doesn't want to go to jail, because obviously nobody does. And then like all of a sudden, like they lay on their back, right? And they got their legs up and they're in like open guard, and you're like, shit, this person knows what's going on. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, ooh, have you ever dealt with that?
Yeah. I mean, that's another good point. Like, jujitsu's gotten so popular that criminals know jujitsu too. So you need to know jujitsu as well. Otherwise, I mean, it's going to be a tough fight if they know what they're doing and you don't. You know, at the end of the day, you can't always rely on your taser and your OC spray or whatever else, you know, you have.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because you got to remember too, Sheepdog Nation, just a reminder, you've always got to have that mindset that all that shit's going to fail. Everything is going to fail. You need to be prepared that your taser is going to fail. Your mace is going to fail. You know, you've got to be your baton or whatever else you carry for tools. Like, you need to be prepared that they are going to fail. So, you know, your arms, you know, you really need to have your arms and legs to be, you know, working weapons and, you know, working for you, not against you. So that's really good. Really good stuff. Ashley, is there anything else that you'd like to leave us with at all?
I mean, I think, you know, like I said, unfortunately, most departments don't require training. So, you know, you need to dig deep within you and, you know, look yourself in the mirror and, you know, ask, like, am I doing everything capable to make sure I go home to my family, you know, at the end of every shift? And if you can't, you know, be honest with yourself and be like, no, I'm not doing enough, or I need to do more, you know, you need to listen to yourself and do what it takes to stay safe.
Absolutely. You know, and something I just want to say, Sheepdog Nation, and like, I just want to highlight this is like, you know that I'm extremely big about, you know, getting you home and you being safe and, you know, your mental health. And I'm really big on that. And, you know, keeping our thin blue line thick. Like, I'm really big on that. And I just, you know, I'm not asking you to go and be a pro fighter like Ashley. Like, I'm not asking you to do that at all. But, you know, I really highly hope that this episode is going to motivate you to just go once a week at least, you know, and just roll. I mean, it's literally muscle memory. It's just learning some new stuff. Put your ego in your pocket. Don't even tell anyone you're a cop. Go there and just be a fucking human and just, you know, put your ego in your pocket and just go do something. You know what I mean? And if you're like, Autumn, there's no MMA places or whatever, jiu-jitsu places, whatever's around, just go train. It doesn't even matter. Like, Ashley talked about like Taekwondo in the beginning of her, you know, when she was younger. Well, here's the thing. Like, maybe you can agree, Ashley. Like, yeah, Taekwondo is definitely not jiu-jitsu, but it's better than nothing. And I'm going to be honest. I've fought some people who trained Taekwondo and, you know, fuck that. You know, like, it's hard. It's hard, especially because you just, you know, when you know what you're doing with your body and you understand that your body becomes a weapon, you know, it doesn't matter what you train. I mean, obviously we want you to train jiu-jitsu, but I know sometimes it's not feasible, you know, but getting and training in any kind of martial art, it doesn't matter what it is, is not only going to be so good for your body. It's not only going to be so good, you know, to help you like on the job, but mentally, Sheepdog, like, it's going to help you. It's going to give you that thing. You know, like Ashley was saying, like, this is her thing. It helps her separate from the job, you know?
Yeah.
So.
I don't know how I'd be mentally, honestly, if I didn't have jiu-jitsu and MMA in my life. So it's my stress reliever. I need, like, it's my air to breathe.
Yeah, it's powerful. It's powerful because, you know, at the end of the day, and maybe, I don't know if you can relate or not, Ashley, but I know that, like, you know, being a cop, like, a lot of times that's all we identify as, especially like when you deal with like shit, like example, like what you dealt with in Ferguson and stuff like that, right? Like, you can't go home and like, it doesn't just shut off. You go home and like you think about it and all these things, but like, if you have this other outlet, you know, you're a lot better off.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited for everybody to, you know, get to know you. Hopefully they'll go follow you. Can you share your Instagram handle one more time, Ashley?
Yeah, so I actually got it wrong earlier. It's at Smashley MMA.
Okay. At Smashley MMA. It's going to be in the show notes, so you guys can just go click it. But go follow her. Go hang out with her. Definitely a cop's cop. I highly recommend all women who want to be in law enforcement, go and see her. She is definitely somebody who I recommend you looking up to, because she's realistic. It's a realistic picture of what a cop needs to be. So I really appreciate this, Ashley. It's really good to have you. And Sheepdog Nation, I will see you on the next episode.
And that was another episode of Sheepdog Nation. If you enjoyed this podcast, please go to iTunes and let us know by giving us a rating. If you have questions that you want answered by Autumn in the podcast, submit it by going to the link in the show notes. As always, stay safe and watch your six.